Stop believing that being under 5'4" and over 60 means you have to hide in loose layers and hope nobody looks too closely. That rule is outdated, and honestly, it was never true to begin with. The real problem was never your height, your weight, or your body. It's one 2-inch detail hiding in almost every blouse you already own, and it's quietly making you look shorter, heavier, and years older every single time you put it on. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is and exactly how to fix it tonight, for free, with clothes already hanging in your closet. Here's what's actually at stake with that one detail alone. It can add 10 years to how an outfit reads, in about 3 seconds flat, before anyone even registers why.
Which one should I wear?
But there's one fix on this list, tip 4, that almost nobody in this space explains properly, and it's the one that changes how every single other tip on this list actually performs on your body. We'll get there, but we have to build up to it properly, so stay with me. Welcome to Timeless Tresses, where being petite after 60 isn't a limitation to work around. It's a superpower, once you understand the math behind it. If that's your kind of channel, the subscribe button is right there. Let's get straight into it. Tip 1, the neckline. Tip 1 is the fastest transformation on this entire list, and it starts at your collarbone, before you've even picked out the rest of the outfit. I understand the instinct here completely. High crew necks and buttoned-up collars feel modest, safe, appropriate for our age. Nobody ever tells you that safe is quietly working against you every time you reach for it. Here's the mechanism, and it's worth really understanding this one because it explains half the list. A high, closed neckline covers the neck entirely, and that coverage visually shortens your entire upper body, compressing your torso up into your shoulders with nothing to break up the space. There's no line for the eye to travel along, so the brain reads that whole area as one dense, solid block. And dense blocks read shorter and heavier than they actually are, no matter how slim you are underneath the fabric. The fix is what I call the V-neck effect. Opening the space just below the chin creates one continuous vertical line that the eye follows both upward toward your face and downward toward your collarbone at the same time. That single unbroken line is what elongates your neck, and by extension, your entire frame. I want to be clear, this doesn't mean plunging necklines or anything dramatic. A modest V, a soft wrap blouse, or simply leaving the top 2 buttons of a crisp white shirt undone accomplishes exactly the same thing. Try this literally tonight, right now, in your own mirror. Undo those top 2 buttons on whatever you're wearing, and watch what happens to your entire silhouette in about 3 seconds. It's almost unsettling how immediate the change is. Necklines are sorted, but sleeves are where almost every petite woman over 60 gets tripped up next, and it happens more often than any other single-fitting issue. Tip 2, the sleeves. You already know this feeling, even if you've never put words to it. A standard blouse arrives in the mail or comes off the rack, and the sleeves are somehow always about 2 inches too long. They bunch up at your wrist, swallow your whole hand, and drag the entire upper body downward with unnecessary bulk exactly where you don't need it. It's not your arms that are the problem. Standard sizing was built around an average proportion that was never designed with a petite frame in mind, so the sleeve length was going to be wrong before you even tried the blouse on. Here's the mechanism. Your wrist and forearm are naturally the narrowest, most elegant part of your entire arm. Covering that narrowing point with excess fabric hides your body's own tapering line, so instead of reading a graceful, narrowing shape, the eye sees one uniform heavy tube of fabric from shoulder to hand. The fix is what I call the 3/4 sleeve trick, and once you see it, you genuinely cannot unsee it. Exposing the wrist breaks up that heavy fabric block and lets the eye read a longer, leaner line down the arm. Look specifically for blouses with a built-in 3/4 sleeve, or simply roll your existing long sleeves to just below the elbow in a casual, artful fold. Not a tight, rolled cuff, which defeats the whole purpose. Here's your do-it-today bonus, and it's one almost nobody mentions. That roll puts your watch, your bangles, your stacked bracelets on full display, exactly where people's eyes naturally land when they're talking to you face to face. Now that necklines and sleeves are both sorted, tip 3 trips up more women than almost anything else on this entire list. Tip 3, pattern scale. We walk into a boutique, we see a bold, dramatic print on the rack, and we think, that's gorgeous. On a smaller frame, That exact same print can work against you before you've even said a word to anyone in the room. I completely understand why big, bold prints are tempting. They photograph beautifully on the hanger, and nobody ever warns you that scale changes everything the moment fabric meets a smaller body. Mechanically, here's what happens. Large patterns with sharp color contrast chop your silhouette into visual segments: top, middle, bottom, instead of reading as one continuous shape. The eye processes that fragmentation as choppier, busier, and shorter, even when the actual garment fits you perfectly. The fix is monochromatic pairing, or at the very least, low-contrast prints. When your blouse matches the color family of your bottoms, you build one seamless column of color that the eye glides down uninterrupted, which reads as taller and far more polished instantly. If you genuinely love pattern and don't want to give it up, look for microprints, delicate vertical stripes, or soft watercolor designs where the colors blend into each other rather than competing for attention. Do this today. Hold your blouse directly against your pants in the mirror. If the colors sit within the same family, that's a match worth wearing together. If they clash sharply, save that print for separates instead of pairing pattern against a solid. And that brings us to the tip I promised you at the very beginning of this video. Tip 4. The French tuck. Here it is. The one almost nobody in this space explains properly, and the one that quietly changes how every other tip on this list actually performs on your body. This is exactly where petite women get stuck, because the two obvious options both fail in opposite directions. Leave the blouse fully untucked, and it visually cuts your legs off right at the hemline, shortening your entire lower half in the process. Do a full, tight tuck all the way around instead, and it feels rigid and uncomfortable, drawing attention directly to the midsection you were probably trying to soften in the first place. The middle ground that stylists actually use, quietly, behind the scenes, is the half tuck. Take a small section of fabric right at the front center of the blouse, and tuck just that piece into your waistband, letting the sides and the back fall loose and untouched over your hips. Here's why this works on a mechanical level. Exposing just the front establishes exactly where your natural waist sits, which elongates your leg line immediately. Meanwhile, the loose sides and back give you a soft, forgiving drape over the hips, instead of a stiff, cinched line running all the way around. Try this exact move in the mirror today. Grab the front hem of whatever blouse you're wearing right now, tuck a 2-inch section straight down into your waistband, and leave absolutely everything else alone. The before and after on your own reflection is honestly a little shocking the first time you see it. But maybe you already know you hate tucking anything in, no exceptions, and that's completely fair. Tip 5 was made exactly for you. Tip 5, the hemline. If you want to leave your blouse out, fully untucked, no compromise whatsoever, that is absolutely allowed. But there is one detail you genuinely cannot skip if you're going that route. Let me tell you a quick story first. A client of mine, completely done with tucking anything in after decades of it, insisted on wearing everything loose from now on. The problem was never her choice. It was that every single blouse she owned had a stiff, boxy hem cutting straight across her hip line, and she couldn't quite figure out why loose kept feeling frumpy instead of relaxed and easy the way she wanted it to feel. Here's the mechanism behind that feeling. A straight, boxy hemline creates a harsh horizontal line right at the widest part of a petite frame, functioning almost like a visual stop sign for the eye. It cuts the legs off visually and reads both wider and shorter at the exact same time. The fix is choosing a curved hemline over a boxy one, a gentle scoop hem or a shirt tail hem, one that dips slightly lower at the front and back but curves upward at the sides. Because the fabric lifts at the hips instead of slicing straight across them, it breaks that harsh horizontal line entirely and reveals just a little more leg from the side profile, which softens the whole silhouette. Do this today. Run your hand along the hem of anything currently in your closet before you commit to wearing it. If it curves upward even slightly at the sides, wear it loose with total confidence. That curve is doing more work than you'd think. Tip 6. Quick one. Scale the details. This one's fast, because the underlying rule is genuinely simple. Oversized ruffles, giant collars, heavy breast pockets. On a smaller frame, every one of these overwhelms you, and the blouse starts wearing you instead of the other way around. The fix is simple. Scale everything down. Narrow collars, slim plackets, smaller buttons. If you love ruffles or pleating, choose micro pleats or soft vertical gathers instead of heavy, stiff volume. Keep every single detail proportional to your frame, and attention naturally returns to your face, exactly where it belongs in the first place. Tip 7. Fabric weight. This is the final tip on the list, and it might genuinely be the most important one of all 7, because it's the one that decides whether every other tip here actually works or quietly falls flat. You can nail the perfect neckline and the perfect sleeve length, get the tuck exactly right, choose the perfect curved hem, and if the fabric itself is wrong, none of it performs the way it's supposed to. Here's the mechanism. Heavy, stiff fabric, thick starched cotton, heavy denim, anything with real structure, stands away from the body instead of moving with it as you walk. Stylists call this the tent effect, and it makes even a perfectly cut blouse look boxier and wider than the woman actually wearing it underneath. The fix is choosing fabric that flows instead of fights you. Silk, rayon, high-quality viscose, a softly washed linen blend. These materials skim the body and cascade downward into one smooth, continuous vertical line, elongating the whole silhouette without you doing anything else at all. Here's the trick I personally use every single time I shop, and I want you to try it this week. Drape the blouse over the back of your hand. If the fabric stands stiffly in place, put it back on the rack. But if it falls over your knuckles like water, that's your winner. Every single time. How the 7 work together. Now that you've seen all 7 individually, here's how they actually combine into one effortless outfit, instead of 7 separate decisions you have to think through every morning. Picture this. A soft, fluid blouse in a color that matches your pants, opened at the top 2 buttons, sleeves rolled to just below the elbow, a small section front tucked, the hem curving gently at the sides instead of cutting straight across, and the collar and buttons kept narrow and understated. That's not 7 separate choices happening at once. It's one continuous vertical line from your collarbone to your ankle, built out of 7 small, deliberate decisions working in the same direction rather than against each other. This is really the whole secret behind why some petite women seem to always look put together without appearing to try, while others in objectively nicer clothes look shorter and heavier than they need to. It was never about spending more. It was about every single detail agreeing with every other detail instead of quietly fighting it. The 2 mistakes that undo all 7 tips at once. Before we get to the real secret behind this whole list, let me save you from the 2 mistakes I see undo all 7 tips in one shot, even after a woman has learned every single one of them. The first is mixing a boxy, structured piece with everything else on this list. One stiff blazer with sharp, square shoulders thrown over a perfectly tucked, perfectly flowing blouse can undo the whole vertical line we just built, because the eye stops at that hard, structured edge instead of continuing down. If you're layering, choose an unstructured cardigan or a soft, open jacket that continues the same soft line instead of interrupting it. The second is over-accessorizing at the waist. A wide, stiff belt sitting directly on top of a French tuck can recreate the exact harsh horizontal line we worked so hard to avoid with the curved hemline. If you love a belt, choose a slim one, and let it sit gently rather than cinching tightly. The goal is definition at the waist, not a second stop sign added right on top of the first one we just removed. 3 outfits that put all 7 together. Let's make this concrete with 3 outfits you could build this week using nothing but what's already in your closet. For a casual daytime look, a soft, fluid blouse in a shade that matches your jeans, front tucked, sleeves rolled to the elbow, top 2 buttons open. Add simple stacked bracelets where your rolled sleeve now shows them off, and you have an outfit that looks effortless without a single new purchase. For a slightly dressier lunch or afternoon out, a silk or high-quality viscose blouse with a soft scoop hem left untucked, paired with narrow trousers in the same color family, and a slim, unstructured cardigan draped rather than buttoned. The unbroken color column does the heavy lifting here, and the curved hem means you never have to think about tucking at all. For an evening you want to feel a little more polished in, the same French tuck technique on a silk blouse instead of cotton, paired with a monochromatic trouser in a deep, rich tone, minimal jewelry, and a narrow collared piece rather than anything oversized. Notice this is the exact same formula as the casual look, just executed in a more elevated fabric. In every single one of these, the shoe was never the star, and neither was any one piece. The vertical line was. That's the entire system in a sentence. Here's the principle underneath every single fix on this list, and it's not really about height at all, or about hiding, or about disguising anything. It's about proportion, giving your eye one continuous line to follow, instead of 6 broken, competing ones. Once you start seeing clothing as lines rather than just garments, you will never shop the same way again. You'll walk into any store and know within seconds whether something is actually built for your frame or just built for an average that was never you to begin with. And here's the part that surprises people most. None of this costs a single extra dollar. You're not buying a new wardrobe. You're not booking a tailor. You're taking the exact clothes already hanging in your closet right now and asking them to work with your proportions instead of against them. A blouse you almost donated last spring might become your favorite piece the moment you tuck it differently or roll the sleeve. That's the real shift here. Not more clothes, just smarter ones. Every one of these has an easy fix, and the difference in how an outfit reads on you, and how you actually feel wearing it, is completely real. You have spent an entire lifetime becoming this woman, and your clothes should finally reflect exactly who she is, instead of quietly working against her every morning. You've earned the right to look in the mirror and feel like the outfit is finally on your side. Not fighting you, not aging you, just fitting you exactly as you are right now. If this helped you look at your own closet a little differently today, do 3 things for me before you go. Hit like, because it tells me you want more of these no-cost fixes every week. Share it with a friend who needs to hear that her body was never the problem. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, because every week I break down another one of these proportion secrets made specifically for women exactly like you. And tell me down in the comments, which of these 7 tips are you trying first tonight? Are you already a devoted fan of the French tuck, or is the curved hemline the one you're testing on your very next shopping trip? I read every single one, and honestly, some of my best videos started as a comment left on one just like this.